Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sandy Frank's political podcast for a people's revolution against the corporate fascist state. I'm your host, Sandy Frank. And today we're going to be talking about a lot of things, but mainly we're going to be talking about the zero evidence in the Russia, Trump, WikiLeaks, Bernie Sanders, Jill Stein conspiracy theory going around the media. We're gonna look at an article from The Intercept by Glenn Greenwald from, I believe, a few days ago, March 16th. Today is March 19th. Key Democratic officials now warning base not to expect evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. From MSNBC Politics shows to town hall meetings across the country, the overarching issue for the Democratic Party's base since Trump's victory has been Russia, often suffocating attention for other issues. This fixation has persisted even though it has no chance to sink the Trump presidency unless it is proven that high levels of the Trump campaign actively colluded with the Kremlin to manipulate the outcome of the U.S. election, a claim for which absolutely no evidence has thus far been presented. The principal problem for Democrats is that so many media figures and online charlatans are personally benefiting from feeding the base increasingly unhinged, fact-free conspiracies, just as right-wing media I never know how to pronounce it. Polemicists did after both Bill Clinton and Obama were elected. That there are now millions of partisan soldiers absolutely convinced of a Trump-Russia conspiracy for which, at least as of now, there is no evidence. And they are all waiting for the day which they regard as the inevitable and imminent, when this theory will be proven and Trump will be removed. Key Democratic officials are clearly worried about the expectations that have been purposely stoked and are now trying to tamp them down. Many of them have tried to signal that the beliefs the base has been led to adopt have no basis in reason or evidence. The latest official to throw cold water on the MSNBC-led circus is President Obama's former acting CIA chief, Michael Morell. What makes him particularly notable in this context is that Morell was one of Clinton's most vocal CIA surrogates. In August, he not only endorsed Clinton in the pages of the New York Times, but also became the first high official to explicitly accuse Trump of disloyalty, claiming, quote, "In the intelligence business, we would say that Mr. Putin had recruited Mr. Trump as an unwitting agent of the Russian Federation." But on Wednesday night, Morell appeared at an intelligence community forum to cast doubt on allegations that members of the Trump campaign colluded with Russia. Quote, "On the question of the Trump campaign conspiring with the Russians here, there is smoke, but there is no fire at all," he said, adding, quote, there's no little campfire, there's no little candle, there's no spark, and there's a lot of people looking for it." Obama's former CIA chief also cast serious doubt on the credibility of the infamous explosive dossier originally published by BuzzFeed, saying that its author, Christopher Steele, paid intermediaries to talk to the source for it. The dossier, he said, quote, "doesn't take you anywhere, I don't think." Morell's comments echo the categorical remarks by Obama's top national security official, James Clapper, who told Meet the Press last week that during the time he was Obama's DNI, he saw no evidence to support claims of a Trump-Russia conspiracy. Quote, "He had no evidence of such collusion," Clapper stated unequivocally.
Unlike Morrill, who left his official CIA position in 2013 but remains very integrated into the intelligence community, Clapper was Obama's DNI until just 7 weeks ago, leaving on January 20th. Perhaps most revealing of all are the Democrats on the Senate Intelligence Committee charged with investigating these matters, who recently told BuzzFeed how petrified they are of what the Democratic base will do if they do not find evidence of collusion, as they now suspect will likely be the case. Quote, "There's a tangible frustration over what one official called wildly inflated expectations surrounding the panel's fledgling investigation," BuzzFeed's Ali Watkins wrote. Moreover, quote, "Several committee sources grudgingly say if it feels as though the investigation will be seen as a sham if the Senate doesn't find a silver bullet connecting Trump and Russia intelligence operatives." One member told Watkins, "I quote, I don't think the conclusions are going to meet people's expectations." What makes all of this most significant is the officials like Clapper and Morrill are trained disinformation agents. Clapper, in particular, has proven he will lie to advance his interests. Yet even with all the incentive to do so, they're refusing to claim there is evidence of such collusion. In fact, they're expressly urging people to stop thinking it exists. As even the law recognizes, statements that otherwise lack credibility become more believable when they are ones made against interest. Media figures have similarly begun trying to tamp down expectations. Ben Smith, the editor-in-chief of BuzzFeed, which published the Steele dossier, published an article yesterday warning that the Democratic base's expectations of a smoking gun, quote, "is so strong that Twitter and cable news are full of the theories of what my colleague Charles Warzel calls the blue detectives, the left's version of Glenn Beck, digital blackboards full of lines and arrows." Smith added, It is also a simple fact that while news of Russian actions on Trump's behalf is clear, hard details of coordination between his aides and Putin haven't emerged. And Smith's core warning is this, quote, "Trump's critics last year were horrified at the rise of fake news and the specter of a politics shaped by alternative facts, predominantly on the right. They need to be careful now not to succumb to the same delusional temptations as their political adversaries, and not to sink into a filter bubble which, after all, draws its strength not from conservative or progressive politics, but from human nature." Okay. And those of us covering the story and the stew of real information, fantasy, and now forgery around it need to continue to report and think clearly about what we know and what we don't, and to resist the sugar high that comes with telling people exactly what they want to hear. Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, he's right to the most part about, fake news, not about human nature, but for so long, Democrats demonized and smeared anyone trying to inject basic reason, rationality, and skepticism into Trump-Russia discourse by labeling them all Kremlin agents and Putin lovers. Just this week, the Center for American Progress released a report using the language of treason to announce the existence of a fifth column in the U.S. that serves Russia. Parentheses, similar to Andrew Sullivan's notorious 2001 decree that anyone opposing the war on terror composed an anti-American fifth column. While John McCain listened to Rand Paul express doubts about the wisdom of NATO further expanding to include Montenegro, and then promptly announced, quote, "Paul is working for Vladimir Putin." So, nonsense. But with serious doubts and fears now emerging about what the Democratic base has been led to believe by self-interested carnival barkers and partisan hacks, there is a sudden, concerted effort to rein in the excesses of this story. With so many people now doing this, it will be increasingly difficult to smear them all as traitors and Russian loyalists, but it may be Far too little, too late, given the pitched hysteria that has been deliberately cultivated around these issues for months. Many Democrats have reached the classic stage of deranged conspiracists, where evidence that disproves the theory is viewed as further proof of its existence, and those pointing to it are instantly deemed suspect. He has something, I don't know, from BuzzFeed. It's an article from BuzzFeed that says the new Twitter detectives want to bring down Trump without becoming Alex Jones. I'm not sure exactly what's in this article, but I see like a Glenn Beck style Russia chart that the likes of Rachel Maddow and all of these fascists just trying to I won't even say the word obfuscate. I can't even say it. They're trying to obfuscate opposition to Trump because to oppose Trump in any real way is to oppose the establishment. That includes Obama and the Democrats and Bernie Sanders and Liz Warren and Rachel Maddow and MSNBC and CNN and NPR. You know, we know why the no evidence Russia bullshit story exists, because it's just that. It's a corporate narrative meant to distract from any type of actual progressive change in this country, which is, of course, what they've always done, but we continue with Greenwald. A formal, credible investigation into all these questions, where the evidence is publicly disclosed, is still urgently needed. That's true primarily so that conspiracies no longer linger, and these questions are resolved by facts rather than agenda-driven anonymous leaks from the CIA and cable news hosts required to feed a partisan mob. It's certainly possible to envision an indictment of a low-level operative like Carter Page or the prosecution of someone like Paul Manafort on matters unrelated to hacking, but the silver bullet the Democrats have been led to expect will sink Trump appears further away than ever. But given the way these Russian conspiracies have drowned out other critical issues being virtually ignored under the Trump presidency, it's vital that everything be done now to make clear what is based in evidence and what is based in partisan delusions. And most of what the Democratic base has been fed for the last 6 months by their unhinged stable of media, online, and party leaders has decisively fallen into the latter category, as even their own officials are now desperately trying to warn. So, good article from Glenn Greenwald. He's speaking the truth about exactly what this Russia thing is. It's just the corporate media and the corporations and the corporate controlled government. You know, if they were serious about opposing Trump in any way, then they would be leading, citizen action to correct this entire system. Not Trump, not Russia, not whatever, all of it. The Democrats and the Republicans and the corporate influence and the deep state stealing our government and our voting system, all of it needs to be changed. We're going to look at more from The Intercept. First, we're going to go to look at Newslog. We're going to look at Caitlin Johnstone. We're going to look at her newer article from today. Wake up, Democrats. There will be no Deus Ex Machina resolution to the Trump problem. Deus Ex Machina is a term used in literary criticism which describes any plot device used by the author that comes out of the blue and is unrelated to the events and the rest of the story for the purpose of getting the protagonist out of a sticky situation. Excuse me. Halfway through the novel, the hero is surrounded by bad guys, and it turns out that he knows kung fu. At the end of the movie, the heroine is disgraced and alone, and she discovers that she's actually British royalty.
It's a device that's generally frowned upon by critics because it disrupts the organic flow of the story and makes the audience acutely aware that they are witnessing a fictional construction. The term has its roots in ancient Greek theater, wherein plots would be resolved by a god character, a deus, whose actor would be lowered to the stage by a pulley system, machina, who would then rescue the protagonist from the perils the plot had placed them in, reward them for their virtue, and punish the antagonist. And this is precisely what Democrats all over America are still earnestly waiting for. The talking heads on TV all told them that Donald Trump could never become president, so obviously this has all been a terrible mistake. Any day now, they're going to wake up, and Anderson Cooper will be on the screen telling them the election was a sham and that Hillary Clinton is now the president of the United States. It was all just an awful nightmare. That's really the only thing driving all of this impeachment, treason, resignation nonsense for the rank-and-file liberals of America. It's the only thing driving the fake Russia narrative, the only thing driving the notion that a minority party leader who would need a House majority and a Senate supermajority to remove the opposing party's president from office could ever hope to do so. And unfortunately, the only thing keeping them from looking to 2020 as a real concern they should have already started preparing for months ago. The belief that their trusted media outlets would never misinform them has created too much cognitive dissonance for them to face the reality of the situation. So they're living in a fantasy land instead of addressing what's happening in real life. There's a meme of Zac Efron from High School Musical when he's making that face when they're like a grimace, his hands are out or whatever the part of that is, and it says, when you want to impeach Trump, but then Pence gonna be president, and then you impeach Pence, and then Paul Ryan gonna be president, and then you impeach, and then it cuts off, and it's that meme. And of course, this works out very nicely for the Democratic establishment and its plutocratic owners. All they have to do is keep herding the Dem loyalists along using the carrot of a Deus Ex Machina salvation story and the stick of Trump alarmism. And they'll be able to get a nice warmongering corporatist nominated to run against Trump in 2020 without anyone asking any inconvenient questions. Hopefully, they'll be able to get one who's even more loyal to their homicidal or omnicidal, ecocidal, oppressive agenda than Hillary Clinton was. You're being played, Democrats, played like an acoustic guitar in a room full of non-denominational Christians. The objective is to keep you from forcing your government to represent you instead of representing a few extremely powerful multinational corporations and banks, and it's working. Instead of demanding the same fundamental social programs afforded to everyone else in every other major country, you're focusing on a fairy tale ending that will never come. More and more officials involved in the Russia investigation are saying nobody should expect to find any evidence of collusion between Trump and the Russian government to win the 2016 election. And without that, all you've got is a few politicians and businessmen involved in a country that isn't even an enemy. That's not treason, and it's not an impeachable offense. No God is getting lowered to this stage. Let's get real and get our eyes on the prize, shall we? Nobody wants war. Nobody wants corporatism. Everyone wants health care. Everyone wants a basic standard of living. The only thing stopping you from demanding these things from the party that claims it wants to give them to you is your belief in the lies of the pundits and the politicians who tell you you need to forget about that stuff, and focus on hating Trump. This is nonsense. You can have these things. They are your right, and the people trying to stop you from having them are at least as bad as Trump is. Take what's yours. A great call to arms there by Caitlin Johnstone, really defining the problem right out. We're denying our rights blatantly, and the politicians and the pundits, especially the Democrats, they tell us that they're fighting for these things for us, for affordable health care, and so that every person can have a basic standard of living.
but they do all the things that don't do those things. All those that they do the opposite. You know, it's ridiculous how they will so blatantly, brazenly lie about what they're doing, and then just nonsense. So let's read some more from Caitlin Johnstone. Very, very funny, witty, and powerful writer. John Brazil is lying about WikiLeaks again. When WikiLeaks first revealed that DNC official and CNN pundit Donna Brazil had illicitly passed debate questions in advance to Hillary Clinton for the CNN town hall debates, she sang a very different tune than the one she's singing in her recent op-ed for Time. When questioned about the October leak drop shortly after their release, Brazil insisted that the documents revealing her DNC charter violating behavior had been, quote, altered and doctored and readapted and consisted of falsified information. Now, as though she's been saying it this entire time, Brazil asserts in Time that she had been helping the Sanders campaign as much as she helped the Clinton because it was her job to, quote, make all of our Democratic candidates look good, but accuses WikiLeaks of selectively releasing only the emails that showed her helping Clinton cheat. Ridiculous. What made her change her tune? Well, like so many of the most asinine mainstream media lies coming out about WikiLeaks lately, this one can likely be traced back to one Rachel Ann Maddow. Maddow has recently started telling her viewers, with no supporting evidence whatsoever, that the DNC leaks were, quote, selectively curated and, quote, selectively released by WikiLeaks in order to make the DNC look bad. This fabrication, which Maddow states as a hard fact, could only be proven true if it were known A, who WikiLeaks' source was, and B, what specific documents that source did and did not obtain, and C, whether or not WikiLeaks published all of the documents that the source had given them. Neither A, B, or C are known. Thus, Maddow's claim is entirely unfounded and is the completely revised story that Donna Brazil is now telling. What is known is that the DNC leaks and Podesta files consisted of tens of thousands of emails and attachments, the overwhelming majority of which were boring and innocuous, and as someone who had to help comb through that mess as it unfolded, I find the idea of it having been curated into any shape at all hilarious. And, I'm sure a lot of it was pretty boring. A lot of it's just a person's emails, but we also want to remember, what else was in Podesta's emails besides, DNC collusion against Sanders and a lot of these things. Of course, the human trafficking implications and the pedophile ring implications. We want to also remember those things. But we're talking about the WikiLeaks. We're talking about the DNC right now, so. Brazil claimed that the documents incriminating her were forgeries until the establishment narrative switched and the pundits began reporting with no evidence that the WikiLeaks documents were selectively curated, and then all of a sudden her amnesia is cured and she remembers that she really did pass those debate questions after all, but only because she was helping Hillary as much as she was helping Bernie. That mean old Julian Assange just left out all the emails that show that part, right? I'm sure there are emails somewhere out there that show Brazil acting as a mole for the Bernie camp against the Hillary camp, just like she did for Clinton, and passing Bernie debate questions as well. If you need a reminder for how aggressively Brazil denied the veracity of the WikiLeaks documents in October of last year, watch this video of the time, she was cornered by TYT's Jordan Chariton, to whom she said, quote, "I don't peddle in what I call the illegal dumping of private emails in the public sphere that have been altered, that have been in many cases readapted." Watch her squirm like an eel under Chariton's questions, eventually pulling the gender card and accusing him of badgering women like Trump does. She could have at any time volunteered the information that she was helping both candidates, as she now claims, and in doing so proved that the emails were curated. She had every reason to say so at the time, if that were indeed true. But because she knew there were emails of her helping Bernie, but if she knew there were emails of her helping Bernie as well, that would have helped the DNC show that WikiLeaks did in fact selectively curate them. But she didn't. She denied everything. Excuse me. Here's another video from later that evening when then-acting DNC chairwoman Brazil is being interviewed by Megyn Kelly on Fox News, where she did the exact same thing with the exact same defensive cagginess, this time pulling the Christian persecution card when Kelly's line of questioning became too probing. Quote, "I'm not going to try and validate falsified information. Thank God I have not had my personal emails ripped off from me and stolen and given to some criminals to come back altered. And a lot of those emails, I would not even give them the time of day. I've seen so many doctored emails." Were among Brazil's most outlandish claims of document forgery during the interview. She could at any time during the interview have said that she had been helping both candidates equally behind the scenes, as she now claims, but again, she did not. She said it was all falsified, altered, and doctored. But now we're meant to believe that Brazil was in fact not playing favorites and being scrupulously fair and beyond reproach, and that the now suddenly authentic WikiLeaks documents show her warning the Clinton camp of an upcoming Sanders Twitter storm and passing multiple debate questions to the Clinton campaign are only half the story. So where's the other half, Donna? Got any documents you'd like to share showing you helping Bernie on the same level? Of course not. If you did, you would have produced them in October instead of lying about WikiLeaks for months and months until your buddy Rich O'Mato gave you an out. This is obnoxious. These establishment minions piss and moan about Trump's lies, but they're the worst liars of the bunch. They whine about fake news and living in a post-factual world, but they just make up stories based on no evidence whatsoever and report them as hard facts. These are the people who want to control the political left. These are the minds who dictate the way so many of our Democrat brothers and sisters think about the political landscape. They claim to want to rescue America from Trump while showing no sign of being better than him. Get these horrible people out of here. They're the very last people anyone should be looking to for how to turn the country around. So a good one from Johnson, and we're going to read one more from Johnstone, Caitlin. Johnstone. I'm going to read one more from her from the other day. Pretty short, but it's a good article. The Russian nonsense is dead. Can we please start focusing on real issues now? For months, I've been criticizing the way liberals have been manipulated into cheering for the known liars at the CIA and the completely unproven accusations of collusion between Russia and Trump in the 2016 election. We are now 4.5 months past the election, and to this day, the primary focus of Trump's chief opposition has been on this idiotic Russia conspiracy theory, sucking all the oxygen from real, non-imaginary issues like Trump's massive slashing of social programs, illegally pouring troops into sovereign nations to meddle in their affairs, and giving the CIA even more power with its drone assassination program, just to pick a few headlines from the last week alone. Can we please start focusing on those actual real-life, non-fantasy land, existentially tangible issues that are really happening on the actual physical plane we're living on in actual three-dimensional reality right now?
The Russia conspiracy theory is dead. I've been saying it's dead for a while now, but people are finally starting to see it for themselves. As soon as people start pointing and laughing at something, its legs have been taken out from under it. The gravitational pull of seriousness has been taken away. And it's just this cartoonish thing floating around in broad daylight for everyone to see and laugh at. When in the space of a couple of days, you've got Stephen Colbert doing a sketch mocking Rachel Maddow's idiotic conspiratorial McCarthyist ramblings, John McCain going postal on the Senate floor accusing his peer of being a Russian agent for opposing NATO expansionism, and Glenn Greenwald eviscerating all hope of anyone ever finding evidence of election collusion between Trump and Russia, without which the entire Russia argument collapses. We've hit critical mass. It's dead. And I told you so. We all told you so, my lovely Democratic Party loyalists. We clear-eyed progressives are better at this than you are, and it's time for you to hand us the wheel, because you're really, really bad at driving. While you were all squawking about Vladimir Putin and having vanity politics paraded in your vagina hats, we were pointing at real progressives. We were pointing at very real problems like the DNC chair election, where the Democratic Party poised itself to keep repeating the exact same election-losing mistakes it made in 2016. While you were all giving the ridiculous Rachel Maddow her highest rating since 2008 with your addiction to her fact-free, lie-filled tirades, we were standing in the background saying, guys, that's not gonna work. You were wrong, we were right. We know what's best for the political left, you don't. The Democratic Party just ran a candidate who campaigned on a promise to attack the Russian Air Force in Syria if elected. And they're still going out of their way to try and escalate tensions with this exact same nuclear superpower. This is stupid, useless, suicidal, and ecocidal, and it needs to stop immediately. You were wrong to uplift that horrible candidate at your party's brazen assault on the American democracy, after your party's brazen assault on the American democracy. And you are wrong to keep uplifting a political establishment that refuses to learn and refuses to change. Trump is now in office because of you. And because of you, he may win re-election due to your insane laser point focus on the doomed issue when you could have been fixing the problem. One moment, folks. Sorry about that. You inept fools played right into Trump's hands. While you could have been mounting a legitimate counteroffensive, he had you boxing imaginary shadows in the corner. This guy's committing political suicide by trying to slash the paltry amount of funding the government was providing for Meals on Wheels, leaving himself wide open to a crushing knockout blow for 2 months into his presidency. And you drooling idiots are on the other side of the ring chewing on the ropes. You suck at this, move out of the way. How stupid do you have to be to lose a political chess match to Donald Trump? There was an exciting world of possibilities after November 8th, where the people could finally wrest control of their government from the claws of the plutocrats and the reality TV star, and the reality TV star has you chasing shadows and tripping over your own feet instead. We've wasted too much time already, and it's time for you to admit that you were wrong and let the real progressives get to work turning this thing around. We were right about Bernie. We were right about Hillary. We were right about Russia. You were wrong about all of those things. You don't know how to win. You don't know how to turn this battle around. You don't know how to navigate this unprecedented situation we're in. Back down, talk less, listen more, and let us do what needs to be done.
So that's from Caitlin Johnstone. I really like that article. That's exactly what needs to be done. These people, these Democrats, a lot of these people have good intentions. Most of these people, most Trump supporters have good intentions. Most Republicans, most Democrats, people have good intentions. But for the Democratic loyalists right now, it's time for you to stop talking. It's time for you to get out of the way. You're not intelligent. Bachelor's in communications from fucking Brandeis does not mean you're an intelligent person or you know anything about world affairs. Okay? So it's really time for anyone who was stoking this Russia nonsense and anyone who thought Hillary Clinton was viable a viable choice. Anyone denying the corruption that's going on in the establishment of the Democratic Party, it's time for you to shut up. I'm not saying go away. I'm saying don't talk anymore. Do research. Get at least one alternate non-corporate news source than MSNBC or CNN or NPR or the New York Times or Washington Post or whatever. All right, try something else. Go to Caitlin Johnson. Go to Newslog. Go to The Intercept, Truth Dig, Mint Press. They're not perfect, but just broaden your horizons outside of Rachel Maddow's bullshit for a second. So we're gonna continue to look at some articles. So let's look at article from The Intercept from Peter Moss. For Donald Trump, a terror attack will be an opportunity, not a curse. Can we breathe a sigh of relief after federal judges blocked President Donald Trump's discriminatory executive orders? For a moment we can, but we are just a terrorism attack away from the White House gaining a new pretext for its wrathful crackdown against Muslims and immigrants. Among the alterations in American politics since Trump's inauguration, this may be the most frightening one. A terror attack on U.S. soil will be used by the White House as an excuse for implementing an extra-legal agenda that could only be pushed through in a time of crisis. What the court will not allow today, what protesters will hit the streets to defend tomorrow, what even the pliant Congress would have a hard time backing, the White House is almost certainly counting on all this changing in the wake of a domestic terrorist attack. The macabre turn in which terrorism becomes an opportunity rather than a curse has ample precedents that tell us one thing: be prepared. It wasn't long ago that 9/11 was used as a pretext for invading Iraq. Although it was almost immediately clear that Iraq had nothing to do with the attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld told President George W. Bush on the evening of September 11th, quote, "Part of our response should be attacking Iraq. It's an opportunity." Just a few years earlier, Rumsfeld, along with Paul Wolfowitz and Dick Cheney, had signed a now infamous letter calling for the removal of Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein. The with us or against us atmosphere after 9/11 enabled them to carry out the task. It has happened overseas too. Vladimir Putin's rise to power in Russia was accelerated by a series of mysterious bombings against apartment buildings across the country, and the bombings were so essential to consolidating Putin's rule that he was suspected of organizing them. There was also, most famously, the Reichstag fire in 1933, in which the German parliament burned to the ground, leading Adolf Hitler, the new chancellor, to warn that, quote, "There will be no mercy now. Anyone standing in our way will be cut down." The Trump administration has already begun laying the groundwork for extreme initiatives if, or more likely when, a terror attack occurs on U.S. soil and is tied to ISIS, Al-Qaeda, or another Muslim group, according to civil liberties lawyer and activists. Under the guise of protecting national security, a blitz of presidential actions could target not just immigrants and Muslims, but other minority groups as well as the media and the judiciary. These initiatives will be, quote, "more dire and much more severe than Trump's first executive order in late January against the citizens of 7 Muslim-majority countries," according to Vince Warren, executive director of the Center for Constitutional Rights. Well, the bad news is stark. Expect the worst from Trump when an attack happens on U.S. soil. The better news is that people are already organizing to prevent the worst from happening. There is, it turns out, quite a bit that can be done to prepare for the nearly inevitable moment when the Trump administration tries to take advantage of the tragedy of a man or woman using a bomb, a gun, a knife, or a truck to kill Americans in the name of an Islamic terror group. The first thing to understand is that attacks by foreign-born terrorists are rare. From 1975 through 2015, a total of 3,024 Americans were killed in such attacks, with most of those occurring on 9/11, which, of course, there's no evidence of any Muslim group being responsible for 9/11. And there's ample evidence of the U.S. government and the CIA being responsible for 9/11. So, we take 9/11 out of that. I don't know what the number is. I'm not sure this writer's stance on 9/11 truth, which is why I don't really want to. But he did make a lot of good points. This is how it works, folks. They stage these events like 9/11 or the Reichstag fire, and they it's a golden ticket for people like Trump and Obama, Bush, the power puppets, and the power to create these situations. And again, this is history. Hitler didn't invent this, folks. Literally, this is human history. This is how power starts wars. They lie about what happened. They rile people up. They create an atmosphere of sensationalism and jingoism against the perceived other, and then they go to war and make trillions of dollars. This is the way it's always gone, and it's our duty to stop these things from happening. I want to get the actual number of people actually killed by, a foreign-born person with ties to a Islamic group that are actually accused of terrorism. You have San Bernardino, where if there is connection between the U.S. government and those people, I've never seen the evidence. Certainly it does happen, but that kind of crime, and basically all kind of crime, is of course a problem with poverty and economics and the way people are, the societal problems. People have children and they think they own the children and the children's brains belong to them. Especially Christians in the United States. God, I was so thoroughly brainwashed as a child with Catholic nonsense. That, when you get out of it, when I started to get out of it, when I, late grade school and high school, when I was, becoming more and more of a communist, which is a Marxist. When you get out of it and you look at it, it's amazing compared to when you're in it and you don't even notice it. The level of brainwashing is simply staggering. But it's nuts. It's nuts, folks. It's fucking nuts. But this is the importance of the need for our revolution to save, not just for a battle of economics and to stop the wars, but to completely
change the way we raise people. You know, we want. I mean, of course, it's a huge debate. What is the right way to raise people? What? Of course, we want to base that decision on, you know, the methods. You know, looking at the data and thinking scientifically about what the data shows us is the best way to raise people's standards of living, people's happiness, people's social. And again, that's a huge debate. What is social and what is healthy, and it's a big debate. We're not, you know, but I'm looking at this from the National Review. Their socialism's rising popularity threatens America's future. No, that's what capitalism does. National Review. That's what capitalism does. Threatens America's future. America. I fucking love America. I fucking hate this country. But we need to organize in order to take these people down, to stop the wars, to stop, you know. And you know they're not about to give us the left-wing media, you know. Now that the Russia bullshit is over, you know they'll continue to hemorrhage support, you know, but they won't. They're never going to give us a pulpit on they're never going to give us a pulpit to say to give our opinions and to speak our minds. They're not. It's not their. It is not their prerogative to do that at all, and they're not going to. So let's look at Glenn Greenwald's other article about what's going on with Israel and all this. I'll do another. This episode was all over the place. We talk about DNC and then the wars, and I think tomorrow I'll do a mainly anti-war episode. But let's look at from Glenn Greenwald, the Trump administration ousts UN official to protect Israel from criticism. On Wednesday, a UN agency published a report noting that, quote, Israel has established an apartheid regime that dominates the Palestinian people as a whole. Yesterday, the author of that report, who has served as Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economics and Social Commission for Western Asia since 2010, Rima Khalef, resigned after the Trump administration, working in conjunction with Israel, pressured the UN Secretary General to demand that she withdraw the report. Khalef, a Jordanian national who has served in multiple high government positions, refused the demand to repudiate her own report, instead choosing to resign. The report, which was co-authored by the Jewish American Princeton professor and former UN official Richard Falk, a longtime critic of Israeli occupation, has now been removed from the UNESCWA website. What makes the event most remarkable is how unremarkable the report's conclusion is. It's a point that a former Israeli prime minister, as well as Trump's own defense secretary, has made unequivocally. Back in 2010, Ehud Barak, Israel's former prime minister and its most decorated soldier, explicitly warned that Israel was on a path to what he called a permanent apartheid state. As he put it, quote, as long as in this territory, west of the Jordan River, there is only one political entity called Israel, it is going to be either non-Jewish or non-democratic. If this block of millions of Palestinians cannot vote, that will be an apartheid state. 7 years later, Israel is indisputably committed to exactly that outcome. Many of its key ministers do not even support a two-state solution. Israeli expansion of illegal settlements continues unabated. Palestinians are further away than ever from full political rights, or even enjoying the right of democratic self-determination. As Barack himself pointed out, this is the very definition of apartheid. Excuse me. Yet now, thanks to the Trump administration's self-destructive devotion to Israeli interests, an odd posture for a president who ran on a platform of putting America first. It is impermissible for the UN officials to note this reality, lest Israel be offended. In its report on the ouster of Khalef, CNN was surprisingly blunt about what this all means. Quote, memo to critics of Israel inside the UN system, prepared to pay a price. The US under Trump has made it quite clear it will defend Israel perhaps more than all other countries at the UN. Early on his campaign, Trump issued controversial positions about Israel, including his statement that the US should be, quote, neutral in the Israel-Palestine conflict, and his proclaiming his immunity to AIPAC influence. But as I noted last July, once he secured the nomination, he quickly switched to the standard pro-Israel line, beginning with his Jared Kushner written AIPAC speech, and then went even beyond U.S. orthodoxy on Israel by explicitly endorsing expansion of Israeli settlements. Since his inauguration, all signs indicate Trump will be an inflammatory fanatic when it comes to U.S. support for Israeli aggression, even at the expense of U.S. interests. He nominated a pro-settlement extremist to be the ambassador to Israel. He was repeatedly suggested that his son-in-law, Kushner, whose family has long supported extremist settlements, will be his key envoy in the region, and even appeared to abandon the long-standing U.S. rhetorical commitment to a two-state solution, a commitment it long ago abandoned in action before his administration reaffirmed it. What makes all of this most extraordinary is that Trump's own Pentagon chief has previously warned that exactly the kind of mentality, defending Israeli aggression and expansion, is recently harmful to the U.S. At the Aspen Security Forum in 2013, General James Mattis said, "I paid a military security price every day as the commander of CENTCOM because the Americans were seen as biased in support of Israel, and that moderates all the moderate Arabs who want to be with us, because they cannot come out publicly in support of people who don't show respect for the Arab Palestinians. Indeed, people charged with anti-U.S. terrorism frequently cite U.S. support for Israeli aggression as a key grievance. Moreover, Mattis, quote, called the current situation in Israel unsustainable and blamed the settlements for harming prospects for peace. Most ironically of all, Mattis called it a choice between giving up the idea of a Jewish state or becoming an apartheid state, exactly the point that the Trump administration is now trying to make unutterable at the UN. So complete hypocrisy coming out of Trump. But of course we want to know that this is the same bullshit coming out of everywhere. It came out of Obama, and it came out of the establishment government for years and years and years, this pro-Israel, death to Palestine, death to brown children, for profit, bullshit that actually continues to make the situation even more and more volatile. So this is another front of the U.S. and the West's hand taking control of the Israeli government with all of the money of the West to control people like Netanyahu to continue to exacerbate these problems. And It's our action. It's our action globally. The people of the United States, the people of Israel, the people of Palestine who are being this is genocide what's happening to Palestine. We all need to stand up, and we all need to take our government back. We need to take our democracy back. We need to take our republic back, and we need to actually create a government that works for the people, you know. But what do I know? I'm a fucking communist. So, the next episode is going to be on more of the U.S. foreign policy, Korea, everywhere. So stay tuned for that. I might start maybe a Song of Ice and Fire kind of podcast as well. I might also do some videos about that book series and the show Game of Thrones. We'll see what happens with this. But for now, please like this video and comment and subscribe and all those things. I'm your host, Sandy Frank, and I will see you in the next one.